Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am senior meteorologist here, Kelly Bayern, and I've got the National Weather Service with me chatting about the fall weather. Say hello to Trina Jensen. She is the warning coordination meteorologist at the Portland office. Trina, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I love talking about weather and so happy that I get to talk about this with you today.
Yeah, and I mean, exciting stuff here. We just wrapped up a warm summer season, but it is fall now, and I'm super curious, kind of what is the outlook for this fall if we, know what to expect: more rain, less rain, hotter, cooler temps, but also what we normally see around this time of the year. It's perfect pumpkin picking weather. It's perfect pumpkin spice latte weather as the storms start to come in. So we'll get into all of that. But I first want to know a little more about you. What is your background in weather?
Yeah, so I've been a meteorologist for over 20 years. I started my career in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I have a focus and love for marine weather, so anything that has to do with the ocean. But when I moved to Portland in 2011, I was captivated by the local weather and how complex and fun it is to forecast. There's lots of challenges with the ocean, and then you have the gorge, you have two mountain ranges, and this beautiful valley in the middle. So I've been really enjoying
Yeah, it,
working
it
there.
it's so special because we do see a lot of microclimates because of our geography. Portland being right in the center of two mountain ranges, and then we have the Columbia Gorge and the river that really drives a lot of our weather here too, especially when we get into, I don't know, the summer east winds that can really fuel fires, and then we sometimes get the subarctic freezing air that leads to ice storms in the winter. I just find it so fascinating that the Columbia River and the gorge can really act as, a driver of our weather.
It is. It's fascinating because weather is so dynamic and so complex. So it's the big, large scale, low and high pressure systems up higher in the atmosphere. But then there's all the way down, there's at the surface is low and high pressure systems. And then the terrain can actually influence that by whether air is rising or sinking. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So, what do you do as a warning coordination meteorologist?
Yeah, so my role is I do work shifts and forecast shifts on occasion to fill in, but my primary role is to coordinate and communicate with our local partners and partners, including you, Kelly. You're the media is a important partner to us, but we work really closely with emergency managers,
Okay.
county, state, and local level, and I try to make sure I understand. Their needs, their decisions they need to make for public safety with weather, and make sure they understand how to interpret our forecast and that we're giving them information to help with those decisions.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a really tough answer to, well, is it going to rain? And so I feel like it's your job, especially in that public safety, kind of world there, to communicate well. So it's a tough job, and hats off to you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. And thank hats off to you for communicating the weather to the public and making sure everyone is aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
So
I
thank
mean,
you.
yeah, we all try. Public safety is huge for us. So yeah, I want to get into our fall weather here. We just kind of wrapped up a really pleasant weekend, and the summer season was warm. We had lots of sunny days, and a rain event here and there, but pretty typical warm summer weather. What can you tell us about fall? How would you describe fall weather here in the Portland area?
When I moved here, people told me there's two seasons. There's a dry season and a wet season. Okay, I completely disagree. The two transitional seasons, fall and spring, are magical in the Pacific Northwest. And especially fall. Fall is my favorite season. Um, the air is crisp and clean, especially in September. We have these clear blue skies. And then as we get closer to October, the sunsets are magical. The full moon is big and orange. And then our evergreens, right? The deciduous trees that we have here put on such a display of red, orange, yellows.
Yeah.
It's really, really beautiful. And then we start getting those foggy mornings, foggy nights, and it really sets the mood for a cozy Pacific Northwest experience. So fall in Portland in September. Typically, fall is clear skies. We start to get cooler nights. The days are warm, but not hot. Um, then the weather transitions to being more foggy and then rainy in October, and that rainy weather persists through November.
Okay. So I know sometimes September and even early October can be just wonderful and magical, like you said, where it's still sunny and just right temperature wise, and the rains haven't quite arrived. And that's what I love about the Pacific Northwest, where it's still perfect running weather for me as a runner. I love it not raining quite yet, but we do tend to get to October, and that's typically when the rainy season starts.
Yes, October is. You know what's interesting is I 2 weeks ago I was in Anchorage, Alaska, and they are ahead of us. They already had their trees changing, and I guess I just went there at the perfect time because the locals were
Yeah.
telling me that their fall is super short and that by Halloween they're trick or treating in like feet of snow. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
really, yeah. So it's pretty interesting how the fall season can be different in different
Yeah.
locations.
Different latitudes and so different from the Midwest, or I think the
Yeah,
Northeast has it pretty nice with their trees. But yeah, I
yeah,
can't imagine fall anywhere else.
yeah, I agree. But yes, you're right. It is our transition into our rainy season.
Yes. Okay. So, can you kind of describe, like, maybe atmospherically, what are some of the major drivers of these changes and fall weather here?
Yeah. So as fall begins, the polar jet stream, which is really high up in the atmosphere, it starts to shift south from its summer position, which is over Canada.
Okay.
So the jet streams, it has a meandering, like wave-like pattern, which really is the primary force of our weather. With that jet being further south, when we get the dips in the waves. I don't know how to show you a dip with my hand, but when you get the dips, that really opens the door for a low pressure system and storms to move across the Pacific Ocean towards the coast, and that's what leads to our increased rain and wind and cooler temperatures.
Yeah, I think the jet stream just comes into play and just drives a lot more weather and storms our way. And I feel like whenever I go on vacation and I'm gone for a week and I'm not following where the jet stream is, I really feel detached from the weather and what is coming,
That's
and I
so
have
cute.
to,
I love that.
yeah, I have to like tune back in and see where the train is, which is, the jet stream bringing storms with it. And yeah, I think meteorologists really track the jet stream, especially in the stormy season, because they can just flow right into us. I guess winter is when we start to see an uptick in atmospheric rivers. Would you say winter is, or can we see
Um,
them all over the all over the year?
Yeah, no, actually, it starts in October. October
Okay.
is when we really start seeing a frequency of the atmospheric rivers, and that's why we tend to start getting more rain in October.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I love atmospheric rivers. I think if I were to go back to school, I'd probably want to study them because they're just so prolific around the West Coast. And California sees major impacts, good and bad, bringing lots of water to the Sierras. But I mean, the Cascades too. We tend to
Yeah.
see a lot of rain sometimes when they're directed in our region. Yeah. Can you talk maybe about the opposite, dry
Oh,
stretches, and
yeah.
why they happen sometimes in the fall?
Yeah, so, that jet stream comes down, it's mingering. So when we're in the ridge part of that, the higher part of the meandering wave of the jet stream, that's when we get high pressure over us. And high pressure pretty much acts like a block that deflects storms either to the north or the south. and it leads to periods of unseasonably warm, dry, sunny weather. And this is what is known as like false summers. And it typically happens for us here locally with east winds near the surface that's bringing warmer and drier air from east of the Cascades over through to the Portland metro area.
Yeah, and those are always some of my favorite stretches when we're dry. I am a fair weather gal, so I love that. But
I do too. It reminds me, I used to, live in Southern California, and it feels like the Santa Ana winds, where it's
yeah,
just this warm, dry wind. Oh, I
yeah.
like it.
And then, I mean, a lot of people love the cozy season too. You know, the change of
Yeah,
the wardrobes when we actually feel real chilly going into the later parts of the fall season. I have this graphic here, and it kind of shows just the normal low temperatures that we tend to see. And, you know, by October, they're in the upper 40s, November's the lower 40s. And that is quite chilly
yeah,
for the morning time where you do need the jacket. The scarves are helpful and also cute. And, you know, it's just the time of the year where that crisp air is here. And I think that's what's so nice about the Pacific Northwest too. It's just a beautiful fall.
yes. And I agree. This like weather allows us to have varied fashion throughout the year. And like, when spring comes, I'm like, yay, I'm so excited to get rid of my coats and my
Yeah.
jeans, and oh, I can start wearing dresses. And then right by fall, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to
To
put on my
bundle up
boots and
layers.
yeah,
Yeah.
sweater, flannel, whatever.
Get the boots and the light jackets first, but then like the heavier jackets by late November, December start coming out. Yeah, I agree. I mean, would you argue that the Pacific Northwest has some of the best weather in the US, or is it kind of all relative?
I mean, I guess it's relative to your likings,
Yeah.
but I personally really like the weather here. I like
Hmm.
it because there is seasons and there is changes. Our summers are perfect, in my opinion. Like
Right.
they're
The
warm. Our winters are not horrible, yet we still
right.
get a little taste of snow, but we don't have to shovel it every day. And we get to go to the mountains to enjoy it if we want. We can go to the ocean and the coast if we. So, I don't know. I'm biased, but I think it's pretty amazing here.
Yeah, I've lived here my whole life too, so I'm probably biased. But yeah, I mean our summers are dry and hot, but not the humidity. And then yeah, winter it's not too terrible. We still get some snow, which you know the kids like. So yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree. And then you know the shoulder seasons, we kind of get a mix of everything. Do we tend to see more thunderstorms too in these shoulder seasons? Like, do you anticipate an uptick in thunderstorms as you know these changing air masses start to arrive and we just kind of see more of these storms approaching the area?
Yeah, thunderstorms do tend to increase in the transition seasons, especially in the spring, but we have seen an uptake in the fall, and we've already seen that. Like,
Yeah,
we've had these in the fall, we've had these low pressure systems already kind of, coming over to us. And it's interesting because it's still warm. It's warm, and then we get this moist frontal system that comes over, and that difference between the warm at the surface and that colder air aloft is really what it takes. One of the ingredients for thunderstorms. So yeah,
yeah.
it's already been an interesting
Start. Yeah,
start.
and
Yeah.
end to summer and start to fall. Question about the chilly temps again. When do we tend to see our first frost or maybe hard freeze? So I know, I mean, we're just turning colder. So anybody who's
Yeah.
gardening, you know,
Yes, they care about that very
yeah.
much. Because yeah, yeah. So a frost, yeah. So when temperatures first drop below 36 degrees is what we look at, and like, so
Mm.
the average time for that first time of 36 degrees. Wow, that's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
So for Portland, for the city of Portland, and well, it's actually the airport, is November 4th. But for the rural outlying areas, it's a
Yeah.
little earlier than that. So, like Hillsborough, for instance, the first day for frost is in October, it's October 10th.
Oh, wow.
Now,
Okay.
for
Yeah.
freeze, a hard freeze, we're looking at temperatures getting below freezing, right? Getting below 32 degrees. Um, the first date for Portland on average is November 16th. And for the outlying more rural areas, it's October 25th. So we are starting to get into that um, frosty period in the fall when could could damage plants. So
Yeah. And then also just the daylight saving time starting by November 2. It's such a game changer with just how it feels outside. So,
yeah,
yeah, that can really
and
affect things too.
I can tell you like the last, so I like to walk in the mornings before I come to work. And the last few mornings, it's been like pitch black when I walk. And
Yeah.
I actually like love it because the stars have been out and they've been
Yeah.
bright. All right. I've been able to see them. Like usually I can't really see the stars because of the city lights. But that's another thing I love about fall is we get that opportunity to have really, really clear skies where even in the city we can see bright stars at night.
Yeah. I agree. And yeah, the full moons, like you mentioned, so beautiful too this time of the year. Okay, do you know anything about windstorms? Because in my previous years of work, I have talked to a couple of experts that say we're maybe overdue for a larger storm. It's so hard to tell if that would be this year or, later down the road. But what are your thoughts on windstorms and when is windstorm season in the Pacific Northwest? Is it sometime in fall?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Uh
Yes, it's
oh.
yeah, we're yeah, I mean, I would say October is really our wind season. It's the same storms that drive the atmospheric rivers, why we get the rain. We tend to we I mean, I kind of agree with whoever told you that. Like, it does feel like we're overdue because we haven't had a really big windstorm in a long time. I don't know why. That's a wind is a tough one for meteorologists. We don't have tons of wind measuring stations like to reliably study wind. But
Yeah.
October is the month, and who knows? Maybe we'll get a good
Yeah.
windstorm
I think
this
if we
fall.
knew those answers, we'd all be really rich. So we don't have those answers, right?
No.
But yeah, oh goodness, I forget the man's name, but he's known as the Storm King. Maybe you've heard of him, and he's a researcher and just has a wonderful site that has tracked a lot of the West Coast largest windstorms, including, the Columbus Day storms, some of the notable historical ones in Oregon and Portland and Washington. And it's kind of cool to see how some of the largest ones are also influenced by typhoons that have come off of the Western Pacific and kind of traversed all the way to the west coast of the U.S. And you know, it's so hard to know if that would happen. But yeah, you're saying October, is kind of our historically the month where we see windstorms. So
Yeah.
let's hope not. But yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting piece of info
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. 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 It is interesting.
Okay, let's talk about fog. I know fog is so wonderful to see. Sometimes it can be pesky when we get these patterns where it really sits and it doesn't quite burn off. We get this kind of stratified layer in the atmosphere where it kind of traps fog at the surface. Can you kind of talk about the fog season and then why sometimes it stays for longer in the mornings than other days?
Yeah, yeah. So fall is our foggiest season, but it's not our only foggy season. Um, and the type of fog that usually forms in fall is radiation fog, right? So this usually you need to have a clear skies, calm winds, and high humidity. So usually after some type of rain event, you have clearing after it. and the temperature is just cool enough that it gets to the dew point temperature, it can condense and form fog. And that fog is usually really low lying and it's not very thick and it tends to clear um, fairly quickly, depending on what we have going on in the atmosphere.
Right.
But the other fog that you're talking about, where it just sticks and in the like, especially in the Willamette Valley, we tend to see that more in the winter, and that has to do when we have a lot of inversions. So inversions is basically it creates like a boundary for air to not be able to rise above it, and our inversions are fairly low in the winter, and it just really traps moisture in the valley, and that's when we get that thick fog that doesn't clear. And
Yeah.
I know when I'm doing like an aviation forecast, I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna clear.
Yeah. Forecast bust.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, all right.
it is the most frustrating thing as a forecaster to have fog, just ruin your day's forecast because it can limit daytime heating. And
Yes.
there have been days where the forecast can be, 8 degrees off because of the fog. It just, stays trapped. And it does seem like it does so more in like the Eugene, Salem area. Portland can get that fog trapped too, but it
Yeah.
really just stays in the valley where there is no sort of mixing of the air. Maybe the Columbia River around Portland can kind of help that, but I
Yeah.
just have some friends who are like, the winter's the worst in Eugene because it just stays foggy all the time.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's hard. It's hard to forecast when mixing will be enough to break that gap, or if that inversion is going to lift. Again, we just don't have the science quite there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, tough to forecast that. So, we're about, ready to wrap this up, but I was just curious if the National Weather Service has an outlook for this fall. Do you guys have any clue, through October and November, what we might be getting here in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, so the National Weather Service, the Climate Prediction Center, does put out outlook forecasts. So they do for a month or for a season. So I did take a glance at the fall outlook, and Kelly, it's not too revealing.
Right.
So what these outlooks look at is like the whether odds are leaning towards temperatures or precipitation to be warmer than normal, near normal, or below normal. And it's just, there's just really a slight favor for warmer than normal temperatures and for the September, October, November, and even slighter odds leaning towards above normal precipitation. But like when I actually looked at Portland specifically, it was, I can tell you, there was a 36% chance of above normal temperatures, a 33% chance for below normal, and then a 33% chance for near normal. So really, it's hard to say. I can tell you we are in a La Nina watch.
Okay.
So there's like I don't remember, it's somewhere in the 70% chance that La Nina will develop in October. So that may have more of an influence for our winter than it will be for our fall. But if La Nina does develop, then we're looking at the higher odds for a cooler than normal and a wetter than normal
Mm-hmm.
winter. And some of our big snow seasons for the Cascades have been during La Nina. Not all. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had some dry La Nina. So, but for the fall, it's really difficult. So
Hmm. Hard to say.
hard to say. I'm hoping for a near normal because I love our near normal falls.
Yeah. Yeah, near normal would be a little bit of rain, a little bit of sun, crisp
Yeah.
temperatures, some warm days, some cooler days. Yeah, the forecast is so hard. I tend to dislike the any hype that really talks about further in the future than maybe a week, like the outlooks. I mean, sometimes the Climate Prediction Center has when the odds are higher for a certain outcome, then it's fun to talk about. When it's just so
Yeah.
close like this, it can be really hard. So take
Yeah.
what you hear with a grain of salt, anybody who's
Right.
listening.
I agree. I know, and like, so what we've been just let you know what we've been talking about out on our operations floor a lot is with we're starting to see some chances of rain in the forecast, and almost with each one, we think, oh, is this going to end the fire season? We're going to get enough rain. We're going to be done with the fire season. So that's another, thing that we've been looking at as with these. Well, we haven't gotten into it yet, but there has been some trends where fall temperatures are getting warmer and precipitation is changing, and so I just really starting to wonder, what is that going to look like for our fire seasons? Like, is
Yeah.
our fire season going to extend into fall? Like, California is almost like all year round now, their fire season.
Yeah. It's just,
But 20 years ago, it was like summer and fall, and for
yeah,
us, it was maybe August,
right.
right? And it's
I
already
know.
expanding, and so yeah,
It is interesting to kind of see these, maybe some climate changes there. If we can anticipate down the road longer fire seasons, if some of the fall rains hold off. But
yeah,
yeah, maybe this season it kind of trends that way this time around. So yeah, we'll keep watching it. But I think we'll wrap it up here. Trina, it was so wonderful to chat with you, and thanks for sharing all your knowledge about Portland weather and your delight about the fall season too. It was just a great conversation.
excellent. I really enjoyed talking with you, Kelly. Anytime you want to talk about weather,
Oh yeah,
I would
there
love
will
to do
be
that.
many more of these in the future.
Okay,
All right, thanks
great.
so much.